How's it going, everybody? Welcome. We're here. Last week, wrapping up. We've finally made it to 1,500, right? So congratulations. You made it. Hopefully you've learned some things about world history along the way. And again, please don't try to memorize anything from this class. Just try to remember how things kind of fit together, sort of trajectories, patterns, key figures, some events, ideas, ideologies, right? Just kind of put all those things. That's all I'm asking. Hopefully that's what you got. I got back everybody's, those who did the extra credit there, the hyena, the reflection. A lot of people said that there's certain patterns of history that they can reflect on, and some things that stood out. So yeah, we've covered a lot. You have done a lot, and then all you got to do is one more the final exam. Just kind of put all that stuff together, and you should be fine. And again, at this point, if you've been following every lesson, keeping up with all the assignments, the final should not be that difficult at all. So it's really more just kind of review of main ideas, and then how you just tell me in your own words why it's significant. And that's the good part of it. So, and again, this week, really just kind of trying to bring up to 1,500. I sort of try to review sort of large, overarching things, events, movements from history, if you will, from like 1,000 up into 1,500, right? I got 1,000 we kind of see around the world. Larger kingdoms, emergings. We can see that all over monarchies in Europe, South and Southeast Asia with temple construction, those kind of things for the 10s and 11s. And then, 1,200 really comes up a little bit. And then in 1,300, you have the Mongol expansion. So the 1,200s are sort of this Mongolian world in Eurasia, connecting all of that, facilitating trade, which I talk about reflect with Marco Polo and Ibn Battuta, which is sort of the two readings this week. And then the big thing here, the sort of pivot point is the Black Plague, which is a byproduct of the Silk Road, right? That because people could move around more freely, they transmitted diseases as well along with them. One of them was the bubonic plague, which I talk about. So probably started in China and then spread itself across the Silk Road. And we see it as it kind of spreads. It's recorded in time, and then it gets to Europe and really sort of decimates about, it's estimated 1/3 to 1/2 of all of Europe is gone. And I mean, now that, post-COVID, I think we have a little bit better idea of the impact of disease. Fortunately, COVID had a very low death rate. People did die of it. I don't want to downplay that, but not up to 50%. But you can kind of see all the disruptions it caused. From the bubonic plague and other plagues, we know that one of the best ways to stop it is to keep apart so it doesn't continue to spread. But you can see how disruptive that is. And you can see how easy diseases can spread. Especially with airplanes and all that stuff. So we have a little better idea. But imagine if 1/3 to 1/2 of just this island disappeared in the course of 2 or 3 years. Just think about how disruptive that would be. What people would do, how would they need to rebuild, right? Which is really what happens in the 1400s. You get this kind of rebuilding of societies. In China, you see that with the collapse of the Yuan and the new Ming, which sort of cultural revival of China back to this after this Mongol period of rule. You see Confucianism being brought back, examinations being brought back, kind of this cultural revival of China, which starts with Hongwu, and then Yongle is sort of his successor. It's where they build the Forbidden Palace within Beijing, which is still around today, but for a while is the Imperial Palace, only for the imperial family. Yongle is also known. He commissioned this huge encyclopedia of hundreds of volumes of just whatever we need to preserve Chinese history. So a lot of what we know, one reason we know so much about China is it's various times that what was there that had been written down and preserved because of times like outside conquest, right? They wanted to preserve these texts. So, and then the big one here is Zheng He and his treasure fleets, temple or tribute fleets. And again, you can kind of see the scale of these huge ships that were sent out from China to kind of announce, hey, we're back, right? We're China, we're back. And they would give gifts like, here's all the stuff we have. Let's reopen these trade networks. And by accepting these gifts, you kind of submit to the fact that China is, kind of the superior part, and everybody wanted Chinese things, silks, shades, porcelain. So it was, and then all of a sudden it stopped once China kind of announced itself. The Indian Ocean kind of went back to its foray, which if China wasn't trying to colonize it or take it over, they were just trying to announce and show, hey, we've revived ourselves. And a similar revival in Europe is called the Renaissance, right? Where it is same cultural, economic revival post Black Plague. You see these banking families, particularly in the Mediterranean and in Italy, starting to become very flourishing as trade is revived. And after the Crusades, Northern and Western Europe are very much part of this revival. That's where, again, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of the Renaissance, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. I kind of gave a background of who those people are. Some of them you're probably familiar with, Leonardo and Michelangelo, but some of them are a little bit more obscure. But they were all part of this sort of cultural renaissance, both artistic and also scholastic. People rethinking the world around them, new ideas of science, which will lead to all sorts of different new ideas emerging. So that's that. That's it. And then it's 1500, and then Spain and Portugal start to expand out. Portugal goes to India, kind of, and becomes part of the trading partner in the Indian Ocean, and then Spain, in reaction, goes west, discovers the Americas, and that's kind of right at 1500, and that's kind of the end of things, end of this class, and then a whole new epic of human history comes after that. So great, and that's it. So all you got to do now is a final. Please look over the review guide. The first few sections are first 4 sections are the same: map, fill in the blank, matching, and then the 5 W's. I've given you a list of possible 5 W's. Amongst them, I'll pick, I think, 7, and then you have to answer 4 of them. So just know those in a little more detail. There, and then the only news section is essay section. Again, there'll be 3 questions. You just answer one of those questions. Please don't answer all 3. For each question, there'll be a question itself and then 5 key terms. As you're answering that questions, integrate the key terms into your answer. The key terms are obviously related to the question itself. So, it's like, what's religion, right? And then it'll be like Christianity. So you just kind of weave that in there. But again, with a little bit of historical context, right? Not just like Christianity is a belief in Jesus, but no, more like, Christianity started with this guy named Jesus, circa 0 CE, and in the Roman world, part of the Roman Empire, and then becomes legalized by Constantine, and then becomes an imperial religion, which then in the Byzantine Empire, and then becomes very formative in Rome and the Pope and the Holy Roman Empire. See how that all plays together. So, that's it. Your finals May 14th from 9 a.m. anytime from 9 a.m. to 11:55 p.m. You have 2 hours to do it. That's about it. The only big thing is don't AI it. I'm going to be checking. I plug every year. I plug the questions into various AIs and get a sense of how they're answering it. If your answer is very similar to them, it'll just be a 0. I'll just move on and go to somebody else. So again, this is a reflection of what do you know? What did you learn over the course of the semester? That's really what I'm interested in. And if you didn't, then don't, and just leave that section blank and move on. Would be better than trying to force it, because then it saves my time too. Then I can just say, all right, this. I will take my time. I will listen to what you have to say. But but please, I want to know your thoughts. You've been here for 16 weeks. This is your time 17 weeks. This is your time to say, hey, here's what I've learned. So just do it. Do that. And that's it. Then you have summer. So, if you do want to revise your epic, I'll post those protocols up a little bit. And other than that, just kind of, hopefully you've learned a little bit about historical thinking, evidence, primary sources, find out if you have a question about something. You can find this stuff out for yourself. You have sort of a pattern. Okay, how do we put this stuff together and make interpretations and arguments? The past is not fixed. We learn more about it. We think about it in different ways, right? So that's kind of my end point. And the last little thing I want to say is, please read books. I've got a lot of books here. I've read a lot of these, not all of them, but most of them. But I have a whole other bookshelf of books I'm going to read. So, and as you've seen in this class, humans have been writing stories for a long time, and read them, and because they're really interesting and fascinating. They'll tell us a lot about the world, and fiction, nonfiction, whatever it is. Just pick up a book, read it. Summertime's a great time to read. So, all right, that's it. Have a good summer.